this video I'll be doing a quick tutorial and breakdown of how I built these bioactive micro terrariums. For this project I used a small plastic container with clamping lid. The first thing I'll do is add ventilation holes to the lid with a soldering iron. As I'm frequently building terrariums and working on other projects like this, I always keep a soldering iron on hand. The next step is to add ventilation to the sides of the container. This will allow air to flow through. You should obviously take your time and be very careful when doing this. Hitting your hand with a soldering iron can be very unforgiving. For the next step in its assembly, I'll add a small layer of fish gravel. This can be bought at any pet store. Now I'll just quickly level this out. Over top of the gravel I'll place a pre-cut piece of screen. I usually use fiberglass screen because if you use metal it tends to rust. I'll push this down to make sure it completely covers the layer of gravel. Next I'll add a layer of potting soil. And I'll also pat this down, just not overly tight. You want the soil to be able to breathe. And I'll just quickly level this out and pack in the corners. And now to add live plants. For the size of this terrarium, I have purposely purchased plants that will not grow overly large. Lots of options are available, but you'll just have to do some research on what best suits the habitat you're trying to create. For some variety, I'm also adding these desert plants. They don't need to be rooted, and they're very hardy. Next I'll place some vibrant green frog moss. And for some contrast, I'll also be adding sphagnum moss. The next essential step for this bioactive terrarium is to add crushed dried leaves. And now for aesthetic, but also a place for my inhabitant to hide, I'll be adding these pieces of cork bark. Cork bark is generally considered to be the standard wood for building terrariums, as it has a natural tendency to resist mold. And now for the purpose of demonstration, I'll add this live scorpion as an inhabitant. Although he could live in here for a time, he would quickly outgrow this. A terrarium of this size is more suitable to something like a jumping spider. So that's the basic construction of this build. What remains now are to add the key ingredients to make this a bioactive terrarium. The first of two things I'll be adding will be these springtails. Springtails are tiny animals, which are actually difficult to see with the naked eye. They'll act as one half of this terrarium's cleanup crew, and they feed on dead and rotting material, which they then recycle back into the soil. By doing this, they're essentially building an ecosystem on a small scale. The second half of my cleanup crew will be these dwarf white isopods. They also feed on rotting material, and particularly leaves and wood. Although isopods can be found in a variety of sizes and colors, I keep a colony of dwarf whites at home because they're suitable for any project and breed quickly. And now I'll add my springtails and isopods into the terrarium. The final step is to mist and saturate the soil. This will get this all started and make this a conducive place for life. And that's it. Fully constructed, micro, bioactive terrarium. Applying this same method, you can make all sorts of elaborate designs with varying plants and decor. These things look great on a desk, and they're a good showpiece.